Well, hello. Welcome. Thank you for coming. Come on in. Come on in. Hello. I'm Rena. Nice to meet you guys. All right. So basically, as you already introduced, I like to give a little bit of background as to what came about, how this book came about. And essentially, as he's mentioned, I went through a divorce, and what preceded that was my ex-husband and I basically, he asked me to not make the divorce be in vain, so in order for myself to find myself. So I did that, and then what happened was, about a year later, one of my students asked me, how did you come to this peaceful state with such a turmoil in your life, where usually divorce is one of the most difficult parts of someone's life to overcome? And so I literally just sat back and I was like, what did I do? And I really didn't know what I did. So I sat down and I started writing each step, step 1, step 2, step 3. And I remember I went to Kennedy Park and sat down on a bench and a sheet of paper from my car, and I just started writing down what I did. And then in that reflection, I realized, wow, this kind of does work, So what I did was, I don't have a psychology background, so it's more of my own personal experience. And I feel like that has a lot of validity, at least for myself, because what I did with that was get case studies. Like I did some seminars and I did some one-on-one consults using the steps to see if they worked before I printed them and then send it off to the world and then find out there's like a defect. So it worked, luckily, and essentially from that I was able to then say, well, if this worked for me and I'm able to see that it works for other people, let me try to piece it together into this book, and hopefully, it works for everybody else as well. If you haven't seen the book, what it is there's a chapter, and then after the chapter there's actually exercises after the chapter in order for you to discover what the step is doing. So it's meant to be very hands-on and very experiential, not just here's the concept of find peace, but you don't know how to get there, right? So I'm trying to give you like a handheld guide to get there, hopefully, right? So essentially, since my background is in yoga, as Steve had mentioned, there's many paths of yoga, and this path of yoga that basically comes through the book is called Jnana Yoga, J-N-A-N-A, and it's the path of knowledge. And the main question that is asked in this path is, who am I, right? So the whole process of choosing peace is asking yourself, who am I? Why, where all this comes from. So if I were to ask you guys right now, who am I, what would you say? What's something that pops up in your head?
Your roles.
Your roles? Okay.
Mother.
Okay, so mother.
Daughter.
Daughter.
Wife.
Wife.
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. Are you both?
That's
Interesting. Don't worry. Anything else? What else? Who am I? Who are you?
Human being.
Human being.
Woman.
Human being. A woman. Professions. Like what?
Lawyer.
Doctor. What else can you think of?
Traveler.
A what?
Traveler.
A traveler.
A cook.
A cook. Anything else? A couch potato. That's a fun one.
A seeker.
A seeker.
A yoga teacher.
A yoga teacher.
Congratulations.
That was more
Anything else? Anyone else? I think we got a lot here, but you get the idea, right? So basically, right off what jumps off this paper is, when you ask the question, who am I, essentially you see mother, right? Now, what determines a mother? What makes you a mother? Having a child. Thank you. I know it sounds very simple, but you'll see where this goes. So essentially, a mother needs a child in order to be a mother, correct? Without a child, there is no mother. For a daughter, a parent. A mother or a father. For a wife,
A husband.
husband. Yay, we're getting the point. A girlfriend,
A girlfriend.
a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
Yeah, it could be either.
Absolutely, girlfriend or a boyfriend. A human being.
Yikes.
Ooh,
Alien.
an alien. Okay, we can go alien. We can also go what?
Another human being.
Another human being. or we can go
Animal?
animal, plants, right? So we have another human being, animal. There's something that is different, right? Plant, woman, man. Oops. So if you're a doctor, you need a patient. Okay? So you're seeing basically here a pattern, right? A traveler, a country, a destination, a destination. A cook needs food and people to eat it.
Yeah.
Couch potato.
TV.
TV and a couch.
Or a book.
Or a book, right? Okay.
Popcorn.
A yoga teacher needs a student. And then a seeker, well, you know, this is where something to find. Curiosity, there's
Goal.
a goal. All right. So essentially, this whole relationship has. Come on in. Don't be shy. Jump in. This whole dynamic has to do with duality. For me to be here, there has to be that there, right? There's separateness, right? There has to be that division. Now, what is in me that is also in this pen, and that's also in this microphone, it's also in this phone, in this podium? Huh? Matter. And what is matter made up of?
Energies?
Energy, atoms, right? So here we go. So if I'm made up of energy, and this pen is made up of energy, and everything is made up of energy, right? Now this refers to more of the non-dualistic. Because that means if I'm energy and I understand that I'm pure energy, and this is pure energy, then there is nothing separating me and the podium, except for my physical body. Does that make sense? Right. Yes? We're all together? If you don't, but this is conversational. So if you have a question, just say it or raise your hand. This is meant to be good for everybody. So essentially, if I understand this is pure energy and this is non-dualistic, now we're dealing with two different forms of ourselves, right? We have the one that we just mentioned, which in the Yoga Sutras is defined as the little self, or as we've heard before, is called the ego, which is dualistic in nature. And then we have the energy, non-dualistic side, which is called the pure self. Can you read this, or is this too thin? It's okay? Okay. So pure self, which in yoga terminology is Purusha, but don't worry about that. But just think of it as the little self and the pure self, the big self. Ego and pure self. Okay? So now we're dealing with two different forms. Can we kind of conceptualize that we have two different sides to us? The side that is non-dualistic, that we are all made up of energy, right? Science can prove that, yes? And then we have the dualistic side, which is I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a girlfriend. I have those different roles, which we've said very nicely. What was your name?
Marty.
Marty. Said very nicely at the beginning. Roles. Perfect, right? So when we're dealing with these two sides, and we're getting to how we choose peace based on this, when we are in this dualistic side, right? Let me ask you a quick question before I go further. What would you guys define as ego, besides saying dualistic?
The world of matter and form.
Matter and form. Anyone else? Anything.
The concept of self.
The concept of self. What else? Inner thoughts.
Personality.
Personality.
Separation.
Separation.
The I am.
The I am.
Identifying with your role.
Well, the I.
Identifying with your roles.
Fear-based.
Fear-based. So we can keep going, right? We'll be here until 12 o'clock. But that's good, right? And identifying with roles. So essentially, the ego, these are all correct. A great definition that I have discovered and feel is very tangible and practical for people is the ego is essentially when you feel better than or less than something or someone. Okay? It's not like the ego like, oh, I think I'm the shit, right? It's not necessarily that kind of ego. It's just the duality, the comparison. If you're here and I'm there, then I have a separateness, which means I automatically try to judge, right? I already separate myself from it. So if it's you feel better than or less than someone, sorry, that's my cousin, everyone. So there's the roles, right? He's my cousin, so I got excited. All right, so essentially, otherwise he's just another energy being walking in, right? So when you feel better than or less than someone or something else, this is the ego form. And this is what basically starts to define our lack of peace, right? Now, this is, I know I tend to give a lot really fast, so if someone just wants to say break, just tell me to break. Essentially what happens is with this sense of self, so if we have the ego, right, and then we have the pure self, these two parts are always walking with us. When we connect with the pure self, we are non-dualistic, which means we discern. Can anybody tell me the difference between discerning and judging?
It's being present.
Being present. What else?
Noticing without giving a value or good or bad to it.
Okay, right. Anything else? Huh?
Awareness.
Awareness.
Just observing.
Observing. So all these are correct. A big thing also, in addition to those are all perfect, is the fact that discerning is what's best for you in that moment, right? So if you're observing and you're seeing, well, it's not good or bad, it's just in that moment, this is what I need to do. And if you can discern without having judgment, then you can make a decision and be very efficient and be at peace. But if we're in the ego mode, we're dualistic, which means we judge. So this observes and this acts. When we are in pure self, we act. When we're in the ego mode, we react. Right? I say something and you, right? There's just that reaction and you don't pause to really understand what the scenario is, and then that's where all exactly, all the inner turmoil and all the crap in our heads starts to get, we start to think too much and we get all stressed out, right? So when we can observe these two different parts of us, then we can start to separate, okay, when am I in ego mode? When do I feel better than or less than someone or someone else, something else? And when am I in pure self mode? When am I just observing? Obviously, we want to try to come over here more often, right? But that's a process, and that's what the whole point of the book is, right? To try to get yourself over to that side more often. Now, what are some things, if this is you, what are some things that people do to find peace? What are some things that you or somebody else might do to have peace?
Yoga.
Yoga. Good answer.
Wine.
Meditate. Thank you. Wine. Music. Reading. Prayer.
Swim in the ocean.
Swim in the ocean.
Walk.
Smell the roses.
Smell the roses. Good smell.
Helping
Baths.
Huh?
people.
Helping people.
Or connect with people.
Connect. What else do other people maybe do that maybe we don't do in this room?
Smoke pot.
Smoke pot. Thank you.
Gamble.
Drugs. Gamble.
Shop.
Sugar. Shopping. Retail therapy. Sex.
Dream.
Dream.
Right.
Right. What else? Anything else? Eat. I think I put prayer. Reminisce, right? History, look at old photos, so we're in the past. What else?
Take a high bath.
Hot bath.
Spend time with loved ones.
Right? So relationships. You can come in. What else? You think of anything else?
We have chocolate on
Do we have chocolate? No, chocolate.
But that's a drug, so.
Smile. It's all relative. Laugh. If you're addicted to it, yeah. Okay, just kidding. Starbucks, coffee. We live in Miami. Juanito, Cuban coffee. Right? So all these things are things that we do to have peace, right? Exercise. Now, let's take a moment here and try to break down exactly what these things are. When we are in dualism, essentially, we're separate, right? Things outside of ourselves. When we're in pure self, it's things within us, correct? So if we go down the list, shopping, is that outside or inside of ourselves? Outside. Music, outside or inside?
Could be either.
Could be either if you have composed in your head, yes. Sugar? Outside. Wine? Coffee? Drugs? Yoga? Both. Now, the reason it's both is because it depends on why you do yoga. A lot of people do yoga because they want to escape from reality. And that's definitely outside, right? We don't want to deal with what's going on.